So we want to continue with our study on the book of Ezra, chapter 7 and verses 9. So today, I want us to try and understand some things connected with the Hebrew calendar before we show how we calculate and find the first day of the first month of the Jewish year 1844, which had its civil equivalent on the 19th of April of the year 1844. So let's turn to page 83 of our notes. Page 83 of our notes. Page 83 of our notes. I want to read an excerpt from Wikipedia. So the last quotation in page 83. So you can see some graphics on that page 83. I want us to read the quotation below those graphics, which is entitled Understanding the Hebrew Calendar. It says, the Hebrew calendar is a lunisolar calendar. So I want us to explain what that means. So we are told that the Hebrew calendar is what type of calendar? Is a lunisolar calendar. Now lunar just means what? Moon. And solar means sun. So when you deal with the Hebrew calendar, their years are solar what? Solar years, but the month are determined by what? Determined by using the moon. So their years are solar years, but the beginning of each and every month are determined using the moon. So that is what it means that the Hebrew calendar is a lunisolar calendar. Then he continues to say, meaning that months are based on lunar what? That's what we have explained. The months are based on the moon, and then the years are based on the what? Solar years. Then he continues to say, the calendar year features 12 lunar months of 29 or 30 days. So we showed that the Hebrew calendar, so we looked at different calendars. We showed that the Hebrew calendar has how many months? 12 months in 1 year, 30 days, 30 or 29 days in each of these months. Then the total number of days will vary between 354 to what? 384. So we say it can be either 12 or what? 13 months. So that's what it means, that when it says that the calendar years feature 12 lunar months of 29 or 30 days. So 29 or 30 days, 12 lunar months, which will give us approximately 354 days. With an intercalary. It says with what? An intercalary. So this term intercalary just means with an addition. So intercalate means what? To add. With an intercalary lunar month added periodically to synchronize the 12 lunar cycles with the longer solar what? Solar year. So I want us to try and explain that statement. It says that the Hebrew calendar is a lunisolar calendar, alternating having 12 lunar months, which are 29 or 30 days long, which will be approximately 354 days. But he's saying besides this, there is periodically they will intercalate or add a lunar month to synchronize the longer solar what? The longer solar year. So I want us to explain what that means. So an intercalary means just to do what? To add. So after a specified period of time, they will add a lunar month to synchronize the longer solar year. So that solar month will be added. So if we had the 11th month and the 12th month, so that lunar month of 30 days will be added between the what? The 12th month and the what? The 11th year to synchronize the longer solar what? Longer solar year. If you have, this is the earth, and what goes around the earth? Sun, really? The earth goes around the earth. Huh? Okay, if this is the earth, the moon goes around the what? The earth. So you know that from this point until you come back to this point, it will be approximately how many days? Approximately 29.5 days. So one cycle of the moon around the earth takes approximately 29.5 what? Days. Now when that quotation or that statement speaks of the longer solar year, when it speaks of the longer what? Solar year, it is speaking of the year of the Gregorian what? Calendar. Gregorian calendar. We know that if the earth is going around the sun, how many days does the earth take to revolve around the sun? According to the Gregorian calendar, 365 days, okay? So let's say it's going to take around 365 what? 365 days, approximately 365 days. But how long is a normal Hebrew year? 354 days. So if we were to take a whole year, so let's say this is a Gregorian year, and you come, so if it goes that way around, comes to this point here, you will have that this one will be one complete Hebrew year, normal year, which will be how many days? 354 what? Days. If you find the difference between these two, how many days are here? Be careful when you're answering my questions. 365 minus 354? 11 days, okay? So if this continues again, you come and have another year, how many days again will be here? 11. Again, if you will have how many days? 11. So you'll see that there continues to be a difference between the Hebrew calendar and the Gregorian what? So the Gregorian calendar is what they are calling the longer solar what? Solar year. To cater for this anomaly, they will periodically add a leap month to cater for, because by the time you go 3 years, how many months apart will be there? How many months apart will be between the Gregorian calendar and the Hebrew calendar? 1 month. This will be 33 what? 33 days. So to cater for this anomaly, they will periodically add or intercalate a full lunar month to cater for this one, okay? Do you understand what it says? So they add that to synchronize the longer solar year. Have you heard what I've explained? Huh? Or I repeat? Should I repeat? Okay. So I'm saying, so if the earth goes around the sun, it revolves around the sun, okay? So how many days does it take for the earth to go around the sun in our calendar, Gregorian calendar? So if this earth goes until it comes back to this point, it will have covered how many days? 365 days. Now this is what is called the solar year. Are we understanding? But we are told the Hebrews will occasionally intercalate or add a full lunar month to synchronize the longer solar year, okay? So we want to understand how long was a solar year more than a Hebrew what? A Hebrew year. So if the earth goes around the Hebrew year, by the time it comes here, if this 1 year complete, this will be what? 354 days in the case of a normal year. Okay? So the time difference between the Hebrew year and the Gregorian year is how long? 11. Are we saying that? This will be 11 days. Again, if we have another year that's going around, it will be somewhere here, okay? How many days again will it have covered? All the difference, the day is different because this one now will come here, this one go there, okay? Then, if again you go another year, how many days will be there? 11. Now this one will have come here, this one goes there, okay? So by the end of 3 years, the difference between the longer solar year, which is the Gregorian year, and the Hebrew normal year will be how many days? 33. So if you take the whole of, so if you take from this point, period this way, will be how many days? 33 days, which is approximately 1 month. Okay? Now if that continues, you will find that the time difference between the Hebrew year will continue to be long, to a point where you may find the time difference between them maybe be a whole year, okay? So, to sort out this anomaly, what they did is that periodically they added the complex sample, that is the intercalated a lunar month, to synchronize this longer solar what? Year. So after a specified period of time, they will add a lunar month of how many days? 30 days, and that lunar month was added between the 11th and the 12th what? Month, to synchronize this longer solar year. Are we followed? Huh? Bado. Have we followed? So I've not come to a point of explaining the periodic. So in a period of 19 years, they will do this intercalation of this addition how many times? 7 times. Okay? Now there is a lot of complex things that we need to explain in relation to Ezra 7 and which I may not be able to explain, because this 19-year period in astronomy is known as the Metonic what? Metonic cycle. So in a Metonic cycle, they will intercalate a full month how many times? 7 times. So you will get that after 2 or how many years? After 2 or 3 years, they will do that intercalation. They will add that lunar what? Lunar month. So let's continue reading. Then it says, these extra months are added 7 times every 19 years. That's what we have explained. And we are saying this 19-year period is called the Metonic what? It's called a Metonic cycle. A Metonic cycle. The beginning of each Jewish lunar month is based on the appearance of the new what? The new moon. The mean average period of the lunar month is very close to what? 29 days. So that's what I already drawn there, that if we have, this is the earth, and the moon is doing what? Is going around the earth. If we have, this is the moon. If the moon leaves this position, to the time again it comes back to the same position, it will have covered approximately how many days? 29.5 days. When it comes to this point, they are going to mark what? The beginning of, the following day they will mark the beginning of what? A new month. So here they are saying they want to use a new moon to mark the beginning of a new what? A new month. If we know a new moon is a moon that looks like that, and the whole of that moon is what? Is dark, okay? It cannot be seen. But we know that the Hebrews never used the new moon to mark the beginning of a new month. What did they use? They used this first silver crescent that appears after the what? After the new what? The new moon. So they want to use this first silver crescent, what is called the waxing crescent, to mark the beginning of a new month. Accordingly, the basic Hebrew calendar year is of 12 lunar months, alternating between 29 and 30 what? 30 days. Now, we are going to read, there are additional rules in the Hebrew calendar to prevent certain holidays from falling on certain days of the week. These rules are implemented by adding an extra day to the 8th month, making 30 days long, or by removing 1 day from the 9th month, making it how long? 29 days. So if we have 354 days for a normal Hebrew year, you add 1 day to the 8th month, how many days now do they become? 355. Do we see that? But if we take away 1 day from the 9th month, how many days remain?
354.
354, really? 353, okay? So I'm saying, now when you speak of a normal Hebrew year is of approximately 354 what? Days. But there were some rules to the Hebrew calendar that were purposed to prevent holidays occurring on certain days of the week, okay? So those rules were, one of them was, you add 1 day to the 8th month to make it how many days? 30 days. If you maintain everything constant and add 1 day to the 8th month, so that normal year will have how many days? 355 days, okay? It will have 355 days. Now if you maintain everything constant and take away 1 day from the 9th month, you remain with how many days? 353. But in the case of a leap year, we say they are going to add a whole month. The number of days will be approximately how many days? 384. If you take away 1 day from the 9th month, they remain what? 383. If you add, it goes to 385 what? 5. So that was trying to be explained there. They say there are additional rules in the Hebrew calendar to prevent certain holidays from falling on certain days of the week. These rules are implemented by adding an extra day to the 8th month, making it 30 days long, or by removing 1 day from the 9th month, making it 29 days long. Accordingly, a common or a normal, what I call a normal, a common Hebrew calendar year can have a length of what? 353, 354, or 3 what? 355 days. I mean, we explain that. Then she says, while a leap Hebrew calendar year can have a length of what? 383 days, 384, or 3 what? 85 days, and that's what we have done what? Explained. So if you are careful in the statement that we have read, it speaks of a common Hebrew year and a leap Hebrew what? Year. Now when you come to our Gregorian calendar, how many days are there in a common year or a normal year? Huh? So in a normal year, we have approximately 365 days and some hours, okay? Now, how many days are there in a leap year in the case of a Gregorian calendar? Huh? So to get a leap year, what do we do in our Gregorian calendar? We add a leap day to what month? February, okay? A leap day means a complete day. We had a leap day in the month of what? February. But now what I was trying to explain here is that unlike us who had a leap day to make a month leap, the Hebrews will add a leap month to make their year leap. Are you understanding? So for us to make a year leap, we had how many days? 1 leap day. For the Hebrews to make their year leap, which will be 384 days, what do? They add a leap month. And how long was that leap month? 30 days. Are you seeing that? So that's what I was trying to explain here. They intercalate, they add a leap month to synchronize the longer solar what? The longer solar year. Okay, it says the insertion of a leap month is based on the requirement that Passover, the festival celebrating the exodus from Egypt, which took place in the spring, always occurs in the what? In the spring season. Since the adoption of a fixed calendar, intercalations or additions of that leap month in the Hebrew calendar have been assigned to fixed points in the 19-year cycle, which you call what? A Metonic cycle. Prior to this, the intercalation was determined what? Empirically. So he's saying the Hebrews came and adopted a fixed calendar, okay? Now in that fixed calendar, there were fixed points in which they will do what? They will add that leap month. But initially, how they determined when to add that leap month, how was it determined? Empirically. Empirically means by experiment or observation. Are we seeing that? So, let's read that quotation of Bali from an Adventist historian and scholar called Grace Amadon. So this is what Grace says. She says, in ancient times, the law commanded Israel that a handful of the first fruits of the land should be presented to the priest for an offering At what time? Passover time. So we know that yesterday we listed different feasts of the Jewish economy. But now specifically, Grace Amadon is speaking about the feast of what? Fast? When was that feast celebrated? On the 16th day of the first month, approximately how many weeks from the beginning of the year? So the beginning of the year is the first day of the first month, okay? So approximately 2 weeks from the beginning of the year, you are required to give before the Lord, or to offer before the Lord, the first sheaves of barley, which we call the first what? First fruits. Okay? So therefore it means, if you wrongly chose your first day or your first month, you'll come to a point where you find no barley what? There is no barley that is ready and ripe, okay? So you will not be able to celebrate what feast? The feast of first fruits. So the beginning of the Hebrew year was celebrated, was regulated by the maturing of barley in what? In Palestine. So you have to be sure that barley will be ready before you get to what? To the 16th day of the first what? Month, in order for you to offer the first fruits before who? Before the Lord. Then he says, before, and bread or parched corn or green ear should be eaten by the people. This was to be a statute forever throughout their generation in all their dwellings. By this law, the ancient Hebrew year was regulated, and the full moon of barley harvest marked the first month of the year, which was called what? Abib, signifying what? New fruits or green years, Deuteronomy 16:1. Consequently, the sickle became the sign of the first month and the Paschal season. So what Grace is saying is that, now we'll discuss that. I show what she means that the full moon of barley harvest marks the first day of the what? The first month. We'll explain that point. Then she continues to say, the law of the first fruits could not operate in the cold winds and snow of Palestinian what? March. So could barley be ready by March?
No.
Why? Cold winds and what? Snow in what? In Palestine. Because barley was the first ripe grains in the regions of Palestine, okay? So barley, I think this planting of barley occurred in the winter, okay? Around the month. So it occurred in winter, and by spring it was what? It was ready. But she's saying barley will not be ready in the month of March, because in this month of March we have a condition in Palestine where you have the what? The cold winds and the what? And the snow, which cannot allow for the maturing of what? Barley. And therefore it is certain that the original Jewish Passover feast did not occur as early as what? March. In the neighborhood of Jerusalem, the earliest ripe barley occurs in which month? April. Near the end of the first week, and the harvest itself lasts until about what? June. That's from Grace Amadon. So let's read something about the Karaites. So we showed yesterday that as much as we have a Hebrew calendar, we have two divisions of the Hebrew calendar. Which one and which one? No. Rabbinical. I'm saying the Hebrew religious calendar. The Hebrew religious calendar has two components to it. The rabbinical and the what? The Karaites. Okay? Now when we have those two, they both began the beginning of the year they both began it in what season? In spring. But the difference between the rabbis and the Karaites is that these ones used what? The sun and the what? The moon to mark the first month, the first day of the first month of the beginning of the year, okay? But these ones here used to the what? The sun, the moon, and also what? Barley to mark the first day of the first month of a new year. Are you following that? So let's try and understand history concerning the rabbis and the Karaites. This is from Encyclopedia Britannica. It says, the Karaites, a sect founded in the 8th century. 8th century is the 700s, okay? Refused with some exception to recognize the normative fixed calendar and reintroduced observations of the new what? The new moon. So, before this sect rises, the people had adopted this type of calendar, the rabbinical what? Calendar, which was based basically on astronomical what? Calculations, okay? So the Karaites rebel against that, and they go back and they begin to observe what? The new moon. Leap years were determined by observing the maturation of the barley crop in what? So this was the difference between the rabbis and the Karaites. So they want to choose the new moon nearest to ripe what? Barley, unlike the rabbis who based the beginning of a year virtually on what? On astronomical what? Calculations. Then they say, consequently, the Karaites often celebrated the festivals on dates different from those fixed by what? Rabbis. Later, in medieval times, the Karaites adopted some of the normative calendrical practices while rejecting what? Others. So the Karaites, as much as they are marked as being faithful, they later apostatize and go back and adopt what calendar? The rabbinical calendar. But for the Millerites, to understand their history correctly, they had to sort out the issue between rabbinical and what? Karaite calendar. So I want us to read a quotation from Leroy Edwin Fromm, The Prophetic Faith of Our Fathers, Volume 4, page 795. And I want us now to mark a number of things and we lay them on the board to show how the first day of the first month of a new year was determined. Leroy Fromm says this. So, let me just do something. So, if we have this March 21st, what we call the spring or the vernal what? Equinox, and we are saying this is a waxing crescent, or the first silver crescent that was used by the Hebrews to determine the first day of the first month that marked the beginning of a new year. So, let's read then what Fromm says. He says, pressure from opponents forced Miller's scholarly associates to study anew their position on or understanding of the Jewish year and to probe deeply into its what? History. As a result, they were led to make the first correction in their calculation, which pertained to the exact time of the beginning and ending of the Jewish sacred what? Year, extending from spring to what? To spring. So, then it continues to say, as far back as April, and then in what? So if we come here, if we extend this, we know that this will be what year? This day 1843, and this will be day 18 what? 1844. So we have something like that. So this is what Fromm is going to say. As far back as April, so far back somewhere here. In what month? In April. Then what month? As far back April, then in June, then in which month? December. In December of what year? In December of 1843, and in what? In February. February is somewhere here. Okay? So let me put it down here. This will be February of 1840 what? 1844. Do you understand why this is 1844, why this is 1843? Do you understand? Because yesterday we showed that the Hebrew year does what? Runs from spring to spring, whereas a Gregorian year goes from where to where? Winter to winter, so that we said by the time you come here, what will have happened? So this is the year 1843, and this will be the year 1843, but this is Jewish, this is Gregorian. When you come here in our Gregorian calendar, what will have happened to the year 1843? When you come here, it will have ended, this portion will be in what year? 1844. Are we saying that? So that's why this is 1843, but we are saying this February of 1840 what? 1844. Months before Miller's original date expired for the ending of the Jewish year 1840 what? So what was the original date for the ending of the Jewish year 1843 according to William Miller? It was in the vernal equinox of March 21st of 1840 what? 1844. So they are saying way beginning in April, June, December and February, long way before this date that was thought to be the ending of the 300 days according to William Miller, before it expired, the Jewish year 1843 at the time of the vernal equinox in 1844, his associates Bliss, Leach, Himes, Southard, Hale, and Whiting, and others came to a definite conclusion. This was that the solution of Daniel's prophecy is dependent upon the ancient or original form of what? A lunisolar time. What is the original form of a lunisolar time? We are saying that is the Kiriite what? The Kiriite calendar, but not the what? The rabbinical, because the conclusion of William Miller was based on what kind of reckoning? On the rabbinical reckoning, but Daniel's prophecy was dependent on what? And on a regional Jewish time, which was what? The Kiriite reckoning. And not upon the altered modern rabbinical Jewish calendar, he says is there. They therefore began to shift from Miller's original date for the ending of the 2300 years at the equinox in March over to the new moon of what? April 1840 what? 1844. Early in this period of investigation, a Science of the Times editorial declared, now there is a dispute between who? The rabbinicals and what Jews? The Kiriite Jews as to the correct time of commencing the what? The year. The former rabbinical Jews are scattered all over the world. They cannot observe the time of the ripening of the harvest in what? In Judea. Ripening of what? Barley. They therefore regulate the commencement of the year by what? By astronomical what? And we are saying astronomical calculations that they were observing only the sun and the what? The moon. And commence with the first day of the new moon nearest what? The vernal equinox, when the sun is in what? In Aries. Now this point I will explain when we come to the board. The Kiriite Jews, on the contrary, still adhere to the latter of the Mosaic what? Law, and commence with the new moon nearest the barley what? Harvest in Judea, and which is one moon later than the rabbinical what? Year. The Jewish year of AD 43, as the Kirites reckon it, in accordance with the Mosaic law, therefore commenced this year with the new moon on the 29th of what? April. So they are saying, if you go back, this will be the end of the year, the Jewish 1840 what? 1843. If you go back to trace the beginning of this year, they are saying it began when? So the first day of the first month of the Jewish 1843 up there. Are we following or we are sleeping? What days are they giving? Huh? April 29. Are we saying that? He's saying the Jewish year of AD 1843, as the Kirites reckon it in accordance with the Mosaic law, therefore commenced. What does commenced mean? Started or began this year with the new moon on the what day? So they are saying the first day of the first month was the what? April 29th of what year? of 1843. 1843, the beginning. This will be the end, okay? So it began on April 29th of 1843. But I'm saying the 1843 never began in April 29th of 1843. There is a mistake here because this is not what the millerites understood, okay? So when you go to calculations, is that this year began when? On April, around April what? April 1st of 1840 what? 1843, this will be the first day of the first month of the Jewish year, 1840 what? 1843, okay? Then, I'm saying in the book, they have written 29, but when you go to the original, what the millerites understood or calculated at the beginning of the Jewish year 1843 was not 29, it was around the 1st of April. So there is a printing mistake that happened. Are we understanding? So I'm not just changing. The millerites understood that the Jewish year 1843 began on the 1st of what? April of 1840 what? 1843, but there is a printing mistake as that those documents are being done what? Handed down to us. Are we seeing that?
It's supposed to be
1st of April of 1843. And the Jewish year 1844 will commence with the new moon of next what? So they want to say that this year, the Jewish year 1844 will begin with what? The new moon of what month? Of April. So they are saying it will begin with April 18th stroke what? 19th of what year? Of 1844, not 1843. So this will be the first day of the first month of the Jewish 1840 what? 1844. It will be April stroke 19th of 1840 what? 1844. Now we understand that according to the Bible in the book of Genesis, when does a day begin? Huh? So let's have something like this. So if this is 18th and this is what? 19th, they are saying that the first day of the first month of the Jewish 1844 is on April 18th stroke what? 19th. Now a day begins in the evening or night time and ends during the what? During the day. So 18th is going to end here, but immediately 18th ends. Which day begins? So at the sunset of 18th is ending, and what day begins? 19th. That's why they are saying it's what? 18th stroke what? Because the end of 18th is sunset of 18th, okay? But the sunset of 18th is also the beginning of what? The 19th day. Are we seeing that? But when you come to our Gregorian calendar, when do we begin and end a day? So you'll see that we begin around where? Here at midnight and ends where? Around here at what? Midnight. Now let's reason, then we explain something. They say next April 18th stroke 19th, when 1843 at the 23rd days according to their computation will expire. But according to the rabbinical Jews, it began with the new moon of the first of last what? April. So this is the first day of the first month of the Jewish 1844 according to what? Karaite reckoning. Are we saying that? So this is according to what? So this is according to Karaite reckoning. Karaite reckoning. But according to rabbinical reckoning, they are saying what was the first day of the first month of the Jewish 1844? It was on April 1st. Do we see that? Are we saying that? I don't know, we are losing track, but we'll continue. It says according to their computation, but according to the rabbinical Jews, it began. That's why you are given those notes to follow along. Don't look at me when I'm reading. But according to the rabbinical Jews, it began with the what? The new moon in the first of what? The first of last April. So, the first of last April, okay. So they are saying, not here. If we come back here, the first of last April, and okay, they are saying the Jewish year 1843 began when? On April 1st of 1840 what? 1843, this was the first day of the first month of the Jewish year 1840 what? Jewish year 1843, and this is according to what? The rabbinical reckoning. And they are saying this year began here and when will it end? And will expire in the new moon in the what? In the March of what? Next month. So it will expire here. Are we seeing that? So the 1843 year began on April 1st of 1843 and will end on March 21st of 1844. So according to what we are seeing there, they are saying that on March 21st of 1844, this will mark the end of the Jewish year 1843, and the following day, which will be what? March 22nd of 1844 will be what? The first day of the first month of the Jewish 1840 what? 1844. Are we seeing that? So this is according to the rabbis. It began here, it's going to end here. But according to the Karaites, it began on 1st of April, it's going to end on 18th, and on 19th we begin what? The first day of the first month of the Jewish year 1844. Are we following? Yeah. Then it continues to say, they consequently reckon that the last day of the Jewish year 1843 will close with the sunset of what? 18th of 1844. So April 18th of 1844 was the last day of the last month of the Jewish year 1843. Are we understanding? Then, therefore, the first day of the first month of 1840. So how is that 1844 been written? It has been written this way, okay? 1844 in bracket. So when Ray Fromm does this, when he puts a year in bracket, he wants to understand that the year that is addressing is not a Gregorian year, but what kind of year? A Jewish year. Are we seeing that? That's why he's putting it in quotation marks. So he's saying 19th April was the first day of the first month of the Jewish year 1844. True Jewish time, and will have its civil equivalent on what day? So the civil equivalent is the Gregorian calendar, okay? And this is what we have shown here. That the first day of the first month of the Jewish 1844, it will have its civil equivalent on the 19th of April of the year 1844. Are we seeing that? Then, that it should read April 18th stroke what? 19th. So this is what we have explained, that the first day of the first month of the Jewish 1844 will have its civil equivalent on the what? On the 19th of April of the 1844. Therefore, in the Hebrew way of reckoning, beginning at sunset, it will read as what? 18th stroke what? 19th. We had written somewhere there. And Himes, writing after the spring equinox in 44, declared that the real Jewish year 1843 had not yet done what? Actually expired. So we have seen that the Millerites, long before Miller's date for the ending of the Jewish year 1843 expired, they had adjusted and corrected at the beginning, okay? But because William Miller was this common man and people were so much absorbed into his theology, even after the Millerites making that correction, people still did what? Looked to March 21st as the ending of the Jewish year 1843, the end of the 300 days, and therefore that will usher in the coming of who? Okay. The coming of Christ. Though this mistake had been done what? Had been corrected way back at the beginning of the 1840 what? 1843. After this, the Jewish 1843 commencement, Miller gave it as his opinion that the Lord will come sometime between 21st of March of 1843, which will be somewhere here, okay? Which will be somewhere here. 21st March of 1843, and 21st of March of 1844. This time has now passed by, and we are a few days beyond the time to which we believe the days might what? Extend. Although the Jewish year has not expired, but extend to the new moon in April, as we explained in our last, yet our time will be regarded by our opponents as what? Having passed. So you understand what Himes is saying? That down here we had corrected the mistake and say that the Jewish year 1843 will not end in the spring equinox in March 21st. It will end in what? In April. But yet, as this time has passed by, we know that our opponents are still going to hold on that our time has done what? Has gone by, and therefore what we predicted has done what? Has failed. This correction by the Millerites of the beginning of the Jewish sacred year was made deliberately and understandingly on the basis of the original Mosaic stipulation, to which their attention was directed by the early Karaite contention in behalf of beginning the true sacred year with the new moon of barley harvest in what? in Judea, which usually fell in what? In April. This was the basis for their designation of October as the seventh what? Month, through Jewish time, for the Jewish sacred what? Year. So for the Millerites to arrive to October 22nd as the 10th day of the 7th month, they had to use the Kiriite way of reckoning time. Are we seeing that? So having read that quotation from Fromm, I want us to explain a few things the Millerites are speaking about. So from what we have read, we are told that Miller was saying sometimes between March 21st of 1843 and March 21st of 1842 what? 1844, sometimes between that period Christ will do what? Will come. So Miller was marking the beginning of the Jewish year 1843 from the vernal equinox in 1843 to the vernal equinox in 1844 what? 1844. And we know that kind of reckoning was used by the rabbis. Okay? So Miller was using what mode of reckoning? A rabbinical reckoning. Are we seeing that? But when his scholarly associates begin to study afresh, as they begin to react to questions from opponents, they realize that Miller's way of reckoning the beginning of the Jewish year 1843 and the end of the Jewish year 1843 is what? Is not correct. So they adjust from the vernal equinox to what? To the month of April. So I want us to explain some little things. Then we see how we determine the first day of the first what? The first day of the first month of a new year. Now here on the board you see I've written the spring or vernal what? Equinox. Who does not understand what an equinox is? So that we can explain it. Okay. So let's try and explain what an equinox is, okay? So let me have something here. So let me have that box, and I'm going to say that this horizontal scale from there to here is going to mark how many years? 1 year. So this is 1 year. We want to explain what an equinox is. So we know that this will be December 21, and this will be what? December 21, which will be the winter solstice, okay? Then we are going to divide this year into how many quarters? 4, because the Jews reckon they are using what? Seasons. And how many seasons do we have? 4. Then on this vertical scale, let's have 1 day. Now you realize that we are dealing with astronomy, okay? I'm going to give a basic explanation of what an equinox is, okay? But I'm not saying that this is a technical astronomical explanation of what an equinox is, okay? This is a basic working example of what an equinox is. But we know that a day is divided into how many portions? A day is divided into 2 portions. So let's say this is daytime and this is what? Night. Each having how many hours? So this is 12 hours and this is 12 what? Hours. So we are saying this is a box. On the horizontal scale we have 1 year. On the vertical scale we have 1 day divided into 2 portions, night and day. So from our basic geography, we know that we have these 2 terms, equinox and what? Soli? Is it this way? solstice. Okay. Now we know that the equinoxes occur in which month? In March and September. And the solstices occur when? In December and June. Okay. Now for simple geography, you know that on the month of March and September, where is the sun overhead? The equator. Okay. So we are going to experience an equinoxes in March and September, solstices in December and what? June. Now we want to explain what a solstice is. Now when you come to December, a solstice is a phenomenon in the year when we have the shortest day and the longest what? Night. Are we seeing that? So here we have the shortest what? Sorry. We have the shortest day, which will be from here. So this will be daytime, and the whole of this will be what? Night time. So we have the shortest day and the longest night. So it will also transfer this one here because it is the same thing. Now, when we come to June, we are experiencing what? A solstice, okay? So this one here is the winter. We call it the what? This one here is the winter what? Winter solstice. Then in June we experience the what? The summer solstice. Okay? So we know that in June, what are we going to have? We are going to have the longest what? Longest day really, or the longest? Longest day or longest night?
Longest night. Longest day and night because the sun is.
So we are going to have the longest day, not night. The longest day and the shortest what? The shortest night. Okay? Then this one we're going to have at this point, and this one we're going to have at that what? Point. So that if we drew something like that. I don't know what that is. So we have something like that, roughly something like that, okay? So we see that here in the month of June, and this will be September, and this will be what? March. So we are saying in the month of June and December, we have solstices. So in the month of December, we have the winter what? Solstice. And in the month of June, we have the summer what? Solstice. And we are saying the winter solstice is when we have the shortest what? Shortest day. Why? Because in winter we don't have so much of the sun, okay? And the sun is what determines how long the day is, okay? So you see the sun for some few hours. So we have the shortest day and the longest what? But when you come to summer, what is summer? It is a hot season. What makes it to be hot? The sun. So we have the longest what? The longest day, the longest sun, the longest day, and the shortest what? The shortest night. Are we seeing that? But now let's come to March and September. If you are very careful, you will notice that the length of day and the length of night in March is equal. Each is what? 12 hours, and this is 12 what? And when you come to September also, the length of day and the length of night is also what? Equal. 12 what? Hours. So we call this in September the equinox in what season? In autumn. Autumnal equinox. And we call this what? The spring equinox. So if we wanted to explain what the vernal, the spring equinox is a phenomenon in the year when you have the equal number of hours in the day and the equal number of hours in the what? In the night. So that also replicates in the month of what? September, when we have the autumnal equinox, when you have the equal number of hours in the day and equal number of hours in the what? In the night. And we have already explained what the solstice is. Are we seeing that? Now, these seasons, how are these seasons determined? How do we determine the seasons? Are there students here? So these seasons are determined by the movement of the earth around the sun. What we call what? Revolution. Don't we learn in geography, simple geography, that revolution of the earth determines the seasons of the year? So these ones are determined by the revolution of the earth around the what? Around the sun. So for we know that the length of days and the movement of the earth around the sun determine the seasons of the what? The year. So this is what we call the vernal what? The vernal equinox. Now we know that the vernal equinox occurs roughly around the what? The 21st of what? March. Okay? So we want then to bring in, because this one here that we have drawn on the board is an issue to do with the sun. Is everyone seeing that? Do we see that this is an issue to do with the sun? So this is an issue to do with what? The sun. But we have identified two people. We have the rabbi and who? The Karaites. So this one is sun, moon, and what? And barley. But this one is what? Sun and moon. So we want to bring in the aspect of the moon to see how the rabbis determined the first day of the first month of a new year. Are we seeing that? So this is what, in basic terms, that's what we call what? The vernal equinox. So we said that the Hebrews would use the first silver crescent after the new moon to determine the beginning of a new month. Okay? So what we have drawn on the board is, you see, the first silver crescent, what Brother Wilson called the waxing crescent. Okay? Now we know that, let me try and explain something. If we add that this is the earth, what goes around the earth? The moon. Okay? Now, for the moon to leave this point, let's call it point X, until it comes back again to what? To point X, it will cover how many days? It will have covered how many days? Approximately 29.5 days. Are we seeing that? Now, in this one cycle of the moon, to come back to its original position, it will have undergone 8 phases. Are we seeing that? How many phases? 8 phases. So we begin with let's have the sun on this other side, okay? If we had a moon, which we cannot completely do what? See when we observe it from the what? The earth. What do we call this moon? The new moon. This is what we call the new moon. The new moon is a phenomenon when we cannot see the moon from earth, okay? What has happened? The moon is in between the what? The sun and the what? The earth. So that the lit side of the moon is facing the what? The sun. Is there anyone who lives in the sun? So you cannot see it. So what faces the earth if the lit side of the moon is facing the sun? The darker side of the moon is facing the what? The earth. So when we say the new moon, it doesn't mean that the whole moon is what? Is darkened. It's half of the moon that is done what? Darkened, and that half that is darkened is what is facing the earth. And the other half that is lit by the sun is facing the what? The sun. Now from here, then the moon begins to increase in the size that we can see from earth, okay? And the first thing that appears is that we have the moon here, and we have this first silver what? Crescent. Okay, let me do this. This is the first silver what? Crescent, and this is what my brother Mario is calling what? A waxing crescent. Then, from there, we come to a point where now we can see what? Half of the moon is done what? Is lit, and we can observe it from the earth. And what we call this? What do we call this? This is the last or the first quarter? This is the first quarter. Okay? The first quarter. Then we come to a point where 3/4 of the moon is done what? Okay, let me do this. 3/4 of the moon can be done what? Can be seen from the earth. And what do we call these? These are works in gibbous. Okay? Then now you come to a point where now you can see the whole moon. What we call the what? The full moon. Now this is a phenomenon whereby the earth comes in between the what? The sun and the what? Now at this point, what they have been explaining is that when this moon is going around the earth is not stationary. What is the earth doing? The earth is also revolving around the what? Around the sun. Are we seeing that? The earth is also revolving around the sun. Now, when this full moon, when we can see the whole moon, now the amount or the quantity of the moon that we can see begins to do again what? To reduce, to wane. So you come to a point where now you can see what? You can see only 3/4 of the what? The moon, what we call what? A waning gibbous. Then you come here to where again half of the moon has been done what? Darkened. We can only see what? Half, what we call the last quarter, okay? The last quarter. Then you come here to a point where 3/4 of the moon has been done what? Has been darkened, and we remain with what we call what? A waning crescent. And finally the moon comes back to the new moon when we can't see the whole moon. Are we seeing that? So as the moon goes through the earth for approximately 9.5 days, it undergoes 8 phases. And the 8 phases are the ones on the what? On the board. Now we are saying specifically the Hebrews use this phase of the moon to mark the first day of the first month of a new year. Are we seeing that? So when now we come to this point here, so this is March 21st. I want us to mark some things. So let's say, for example, this one is 17 days, and this one is what? Let's say 13 days. Then we come here and say, this will be what? 20 or 19. Let's have 19 and what? 19 and 10. So we want to understand how the rabbis use the what? The moon. So what the rabbis will do, this is the vernal equinox, which occasionally occurred on March what? March 21st. So what they will do in using the moon, so from the sun, they know that this vernal equinox occurs around what? The March 21st. Now they want to bring in the issue of the moon. So when you come to the board, so this one will be around what date? From March 21st. April 3rd. Will it be April 3rd? Huh? 13. Is it April 3rd? Huh? You count from 21st.
Yeah, you remove 9 from 13, it will remain 4.
No, I'm saying you include 21st. 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 30th, which is April 3rd. So you have to count this day here. You have to count that day. Now when you come here, this will be 10 days. Will it be April 1st or March 30th? This will it be March 30th? And this one here will be what? If you move behind 19 days from 3rd March, okay? And this one from March 21st back one. Like that. That will be 5th. Huh? 5th of March. Let's go by that. So what the rabbis will do, they will come and look. Let's say, so this is, let's call this year what? Year X, and this is year what? So these are different years. It's not the same year, okay? So this is the phases of the moon as it moves through that year, okay? So if we do that, we'll have the moon on this side, on that side, but let's use this illustration. So this is year X and this is year what? Year Y. So in year Y, what they want to determine is what is the first day of the first month of year what? X. So what they will come and do, they will come and look. So all these things, you don't have to come until here, then determine that we're not going to choose this moon, let's choose that one, okay? All these things can be determined by what? By calculation, okay? That's why it said astronomical what? By astronomical calculation, you can determine when all these occurrences are happening throughout the whole of that year, okay? So what the rabbis will do, they'll come and look at this work is in crescent and that work is in what? Crescent. And what they will do, they will choose the crescent that was closest to the vernal equinox. Okay? Now if you look at this year X, which is the crescent that is closest to the vernal equinox? April 3rd. Do we see that? Because how far is this crescent from the vernal equinox? How many days? But how far is this vernal equinox how far is this crescent from the vernal equinox? 13th. So they'll choose the crescent that is closest to the vernal equinox. So in the case of year X, what will be the first day of the first month? This will be the first day of the first month because it is the crescent closest to what? To the vernal equinox. When you come to year Y, again they want to choose the crescent closest to the vernal what? Closest to the vernal equinox. Let me try and change it a little bit so that they all don't come the what? So let's have 19. So this will be 10. So when you look at this year Y, which crescent will be closer to the vernal equinox? Okay, let me put it this. This will be 3rd March. So the crescent in 3rd of March will mark what? The beginning of the first day of the first month. So this will be the first day of the first month. Are we seeing how the rabbis did that? So they want to use the sun. The sun will help you determine the vernal what? Equinox. Then having known when the vernal equinox will occur, now they'll go and use the moon and determine the crescent closest to the vernal what? Equinox. In this case of year X, they'll choose this crescent because 13 days away from the vernal equinox. And in the case of year Y, they want to choose this crescent because it is 10 days away from the vernal what? Vernal equinox. Professor, how much time do I have? Okay, so we'll pray. Now last boys, I will come and just continue in the next class to finish, then allow him coming. So let's pray. Our dear Father in heaven, we thank you for the teaching and the learning from your word. We realize that you are a wholesome God, wanting to teach us and make us understand the deep throating truths of your word. Please may we be willing to avail ourselves for that opportunity, that you may teach us. These things may appear difficult at the first glance, but with practice and continual revision, they'll become part and parcel of us, and they'll be able to change us. Please, as we break a little bit, then to come and continue, may you lead us, for we pray in faith in Jesus' name. Amen.